Tim has now told you that I was an elected prosecutor and attorney general and governor and chairman of the RNC, Republican National Committee. So now he's told you that I'm a politician, a lawyer, and a party official. Some credentials, huh? But my other habits are good, so I am a United States Army veteran of the United States Army Intelligence during the Cold War, as well as being governor. I chaired the National Commission on Homeland Security for the United States. The Congress came to me as governor and asked me to chair a very official commission that met for 5 years. It was actually a 3-year commission, and I was governor during the 9/11 attack, right in the middle, and then the Congress extended the commission 2 additional years. And I think that commission has really still served as the Bible of Homeland Security for the United States during that period of time. And also I'm on the board of the National Rifle Association. So if any of y'all own guns, that would be a good thing. If any of y'all are startled about that, we can talk about that later. But I'm really pleased to be invited to be here tonight to talk to this assembly about liberty and about the liberty of the nation and the challenges that are confronted by this country right now. Ladies and gentlemen, my view is that we are in a long war. So I'm going to talk to you about 2 essential points here tonight. Number one is the national security challenges that we're facing here in the United States, and the challenges that we're seeing with this president, and the troubles that are still ahead of us. We have seen that, and then the second point that I want to address with you all tonight is the economy of the United States. But those are the 2 issues I really want to discuss with you tonight, and they're intertwined. They're completely linked. If you're going to run this country and you're going to run it right, you've got to think about those 2 issues. The real challenge that I think we're starting with is that we are in a long war. I don't have to really explain that to a group like this, but let's look at it right now. We have Ottawa attacked, 72 hours ago by an ideological group. We've got a fellow who wields a hatchet against a police officer in New York yesterday. These are just the current news items. But what we really have today is an ongoing challenge that's going to be facing us for many, many years because of the society confronting this almost international guerrilla warfare that we're seeing. The modern world is uniquely vulnerable. It's not like the old days when you could hide behind oceans and you could be in a nation state and be safe. We now are seeing an intertwined global world. It's not just terrorism, it's also a conventional challenge, and we're seeing even the potential of naturally occurring challenges to the homeland of this country, for example, like in the pandemic that we're seeing in the mishandling of that we've seen with this Ebola environment and expedition that we're seeing right now. The economic system of the world has become completely global and intertwined. I serve on the board, for example, of an airline, as a matter of fact, a cargo airline out of New York, and we fly about 747 or 50, no, more than that, 53 747 jets worldwide. And in any time now, any of us in this room can be overseas immediately. On the way over here tonight, I talked to a fellow who was getting on a plane to London today just to conduct business this coming Monday. We all know this. The world is completely intertwined, and what that means is the world is more fragile and more vulnerable. Now, there are some inherent strengths that we can talk about, but I would point out to you all that in the Cold War, when I was a part of that, things were fairly straightforward. It was us and the Russians, and then there were some side people causing problems off to the side, but at the end of the day, it was a bipolar world with the Russians and the United States. We still have those challenges today. There's been a lot of talk about the war on terror and the terrorist attacks and asymmetrical warfare, which I can get into, but I think what's not thought about today is that we actually are facing a dual problem. We're facing the old conventional challenge and a new type of warfare that is threatening the United States. Look on the conventional side. The Russians are unhappy with the world order as it exists today. They're not happy with their position in the world. And now we're seeing Putin actually conquer the Crimea. There was a treaty, by the way, that guaranteed the borders of the Ukraine, a treaty that was put into place at the time of the fall of the Soviet Union. And the borders of the Ukraine were guaranteed by Russia, by the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. And the Russians have basically said, that doesn't matter anymore, and they threw that away, and they're continuing to pressure the Ukraine. That's a serious matter, because what happens if they decide, as they are doing now, to put pressure on the Baltic states? Well, most of those states are members of NATO. So this is a very, very dangerous situation, because Russia is determined to upset the world order. What about the Ukrainians, the Iranians? The Iranians want to upset the world order. They are determined to get a nuclear weapon. We are determined that they not have one. Now, I, for one, hope that this negotiation that is going on between the United States and Iran works. I think it's very undesirable for us to have a war with the Iranians. But if they persist and they're determined to get a nuclear weapon, we will be confronted with that question. What are we going to do? Are we going to simply let them have it and then try to practice some type of containment against them? Or are we going to stop them from having it? So far, we've declared that we're going to stop them, but this president, of course, is inherently unreliable. Then there's the Chinese. They're not happy with the world order. They want to upset the world order, and they're trying to now put pressure on the Japanese and others in the South China Sea. So we have this conventional, same kind of thing that we saw in the Cold War. Then you got a whole new thing, and it's called asymmetrical warfare. And this is a case where there are people that want to upset the world order in a very meaningful way. They want to completely eliminate the whole state system that exists in the world today. They want to eliminate borders. ISIS is an attacking force that wants to destroy all borders and create a worldwide caliphate, and they are conducting themselves in the most barbaric possible way in order to do that. Al-Qaeda is not connected to any state. They are an international type of operation and organization. And I want to inject to you the concept of return on capital, return on investment. If they can spend a little money and make the Western powers react, they win. Now, it cost a few $100,000 to do the 9/11 attack. How many trillions of dollars have we spent since that time? Money that has come directly out of the economy in order to do homeland security and other areas. The asymmetrical warfare is a very serious matter, because it means that for a very small investment, people can disrupt things, and terrorism is a war on the mind. I was struck the other night. The TV was talking about the Ottawa attack, and they said, well, thank goodness, it's not an attack from ISIS. Well, maybe it is, actually, but the point is that the ISIS people have already won. They're in our heads. They're, anything that happens now, we're wondering, well, is this the long anticipated attack from ISIS that's going to happen? We're not even thinking about Al-Qaeda anymore. They're the ones that killed 3,000 Americans at the World Trade Center and another 1,000 people or so in the Pentagon in Northern Virginia. So this type of attack is potentially devastating. There's a quote that on a book that I read just recently I want to inject in your minds. The terrorist type of attacks, the people that want to upset the world order and attack through these kinds of terrorist things, can engage a superpower like the United States of America in constant little brushfire wars, and it was described as the irresistible withering away of the military, economic, and political power of the United States through wasting conflicts with minor foes. It's the concept of the return on investment. If they can get us engaged in small little brushfire problems with insignificant people across the world, we're spending millions on drones and airplanes and soldiers in order to fight people that are spending almost nothing at all over a period of time. This wastes away a nation. That is the strategy that they have. President Obama, on the other hand, is sending a message, and it's a message of withdrawal. I don't know if any of you all saw the West Point speech some months ago, the graduation speech at West Point. I watched that speech really closely because I thought it was going to be the pronouncement of what American policy was in the world, and it was. and I'm ashamed of it, to go and stand in front of graduates of the United States Military Academy, people who went into that academy and went through that course are now dedicated commissioned officers to protect and stand up for this nation, and to go before them at West Point and basically say, look, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to put you anywhere to do anything to protect this country because we're withdrawing. We're pulling back. Well, first of all, it's embarrassing to the graduates, but more importantly than that, it's a message to other people. And it was after that we began to see the emergence of ISIS. It was after that. Now, the president has been forced to reverse himself. I believe that there are a number of points that are essential for the direction of foreign policy in this country. Number one, I believe strategically we must follow a policy that says that the Western civilization will triumph in the 21st century in the same way that it did in the 20th. That has to be our goal. That has to be our mission. I believe we have to recognize that the United States of America is exceptional. This is an exceptional nation. We are not just another country of the 193 across the world because of our unique history, because of our values as Americans and our commitments to Western values. America is exceptional. We stand for justice in this world. We stand for the rights of women. We stand for the rule of law. We stand for all these values that make Western civilization triumph in the 20th century, and we must have a mission that says that it will triumph in the 21st. I believe we have to have an active foreign policy. Now, let me be clear with you. I actually think that in the past number of years we have been unwise with some of the interventions that we have done. I think that some of the interventions that President Bush did were not wise, and I think that we are still paying the penalty of disruptions that we probably didn't do. But to react the other way, the way the president has, the way some of our Republicans are, and say we're going to withdraw from the world is a counter-reaction that is inherently dangerous. It is a menace to this nation and a menace to the world. I believe that we have to recognize the advantages that we have and invest in our technologies and recognize the advantages we have, for example, with the NSA. Now, I don't have the slightest interest whatsoever in the NSA reading my email or looking at my texts. I agree with that. But to say things that would inherently destroy those advantages that we have without trying an appropriate oversight and regulation, I think is dangerous and doesn't recognize the world and the war conflict that we are in and are going to be in for a very long time. And maybe the additional point that I want to make in this direction in national security is that we must have an economy that is strong in the United States, or we can't support any role for the United States in the world in the 21st century. We must build up the economy of the United States. We must build up the economy of the United States and get it vigorous again. That's what it has to be a national mission. And first, we have to start telling the truth. What are we seeing right now? We're seeing everybody say, oh, everything's a lot better now. Unemployment rate's down to 5.9%, and everything is going just great, and we're moving forward, we're building jobs and so on like that. But the fact is, we never have really recovered from the recession of 2008, and we're not going to recover from the recession of 2008 until we vigorously lead to build up the economy in this country. What are some of the facts? 1/5 of the working people of the United States of America have been laid off in the last 5 years. Of that body of people, 22% of them have never found jobs again. 46% of the people who did find jobs, who had been laid off, have found jobs paying less, which means that their standard of living has gone down, even though they may be counted as employed. Many are working part-time when they want to work full-time. Young people coming out of college, this is sort of my pet peeve. I believe in young people who are coming out of college. I believe in it. America renews itself every year when another wave of graduates come out of our colleges and universities and start. And they're excited about their careers and they want to do something for themselves and for their families, and that's a value to America. And they can't find appropriate jobs, and that is a reality. and many now are working part-time jobs. And you talk to people, and they say, well, my son has got a bachelor's degree from Georgetown and hadn't found anything yet that he really wants to do, so he's doing X, Y, and Z. Until then, if we had a strong, vigorous economy that was producing jobs and opportunities and growth in this country, he would find that kind of job immediately, and that furthermore, wages, which everybody knows are stagnant, would go up. I was watching the other day, and I guess it was ABC, I was watching, what's his name, Farad Zakaria, I think is his name. Yeah, I've actually met him, and he was on, and he said, well, nobody can understand why wages aren't going up.
No one.
Yeah, nobody knows why wages aren't going up. We know why wages aren't going up, Fareed. We know why. Because we don't have a vigorous economy. As long as you have too many people chasing too few jobs, wages will be low and stagnant. And that is a reality. And they are. If inflation is going up at 2% and wages are going up 2%, and those are the statistics, you are even and stagnant in wage earners. And people know that. People are aware of that. Many polls, I think there was a poll that was out just recently, families are saying, well, I don't any longer believe that the next generation, my children's generation, are going to do better than I did. Now that goes to the very heart of what I think America is. And that is once again restoring the American dream by getting the economy moving again. And that's what has to be done. We have to do that. There must be a plan, a vigorous, aggressive plan. And if we do that, we will rebuild America again. And that's what we must do. There's a need for growth in this country. First thing we have to do is we have to stop bad policy, and then the second thing we have to do is utilize the tax system and reform the tax system in order to foster growth in this country. Number one, we have to stop doing bad stuff. What has the president said? What was his policy when he said, don't do stupid stuff? Right? So we,
a spin-off of that.
yeah, we keep on doing stupid stuff. We take capital gains and raise the taxes on it, which means that inherently you're going to get less investment if you do that. We allow businesses to write off their investments and encourage that. We've lengthened the time that they're going to be able to do that. Bonus depreciation has gone away. Obamacare has been put into place. Frankly, there are some things about Obamacare that are pretty positive. But on the other hand, we know that the whole system discourages growth. They're talking now, of course, about raising the minimum wage. I'm in favor of people who are working in lesser jobs having an opportunity to have a decent quality of life, but we do need to have a plan in place before we raise the minimum wage to employ those people that the minimum wage will unemploy if it's raised. We have to stop doing stupid stuff. And the second thing we have to do is actually build up the economy. And I suggest to you that there are ways to do that, and at Free Congress Foundation we have developed a plan years ago, and we continue to preach it every day. If we take all business activity and lump it together, get away from pass-throughs, and charge all business 15%. If we reform the personal tax rate and charge 10, 15, and 25%, and get rid of all the loopholes on the business side and the personal side, you can actually reform that way and you can develop the economy. If we eliminate all double taxation in the economy, you open up investment opportunities in this country. Frankly, the plan that we've developed's got so much money in it, you could even put in a low-income tax credit in order to hold the very lowest people tax-free, and you could then explode the economy. Our plan that we've developed isn't the only plan. It's just the only one we know will work. We know our plan will work. If somebody in the Congress wants to come forward with a better plan, that's okay with me. But I say that it should be a national mission of the United States to grow the economy and stop doing things to prevent that growth and grow the economy now. That has to be our national mission. And it's certainly my mission. So I end by saying that change is here. We see it every day. I've never seen anything quite like it. We thought at the fall of the Berlin Wall, and I saw the Berlin Wall myself, and I believe it was Francis Fukuyama who wrote and said that history is over. The Berlin Wall has fallen, the Soviet Union has fallen, history is over, and we have now reached a period in history where everything is nirvana. Didn't last long. But change is here. We see it every day. Change is attacking this country. Change is preventing the growth of this country that we should do, and we can embrace change, but we have to keep our eye on what we must do. And if we remember these principles, these goals, and these missions, then American exceptionalism is going to take over. Because we are the ones really who are inherently have all the advantages, really. We're the ones that believe in the rule of law. We're the ones that have democracy and liberty as our basic fundamental concepts, something that people all across the world should want and which are under attack today. The United States and its culture is the culture that advances women. So as a result of that now, we double our capacity as a society, as against, for example, many of the countries in the Middle East that don't develop those opportunities for people. We're the ones that believe in free markets and understand the inherent drive and aspirations and ambitions of people that cause not just their own benefit, but societal benefit as they grow and start businesses and become entrepreneurs and develop opportunities for people and employ people, all for the purpose of the inherent normal human quality of wanting to advance themselves and their families. These are the inherent advantages that we have that cannot be beaten. Cannot be beaten if we do our job. And our job means that we have to apply the principles and make sure that we win. And if we do, then I can promise you that we will prevail in the 21st century, and so will our Western values.